Have you ever heard of the Buddhist custom of putting salt in your shoes? And do you know what exactly this ancient practice, which has its origins in the wisdom of Buddhists and Oriental medicine, is for? Salt is known for its countless uses, not only in cooking. You've probably already tried several thanks to suggestions from elders. In the kitchen, it is a formidable ally, and according to the most recent research, it is not the worst culprit in raising blood pressure. And its uses do not end here. Salt is in fact a precious ingredient even in domestic cleaning, because it helps to clean and cleanse. Furthermore, in the form of a saline solution, it is a powerful disinfectant for wounds and skin abrasions. Not to mention its uses as an exfoliating scrub, anti-dandruff remedy, bath salt, and we could go on forever. But few people know that for Buddhists, putting salt in their shoes has a very important meaning on both a spiritual and medical level. And we will see it in the Zen story that you will hear shortly, where you will discover 5 reasons why you should also try to put it in your shoes. So stay until the end, because what we will reveal to you in the last minutes of the video will strike you deeply, leaving you speechless. But before continuing, if you are not yet one of us, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to be updated when we publish new content. In the heart of a valley surrounded by the mystical aura of the Japanese mountains stood an ancient Buddhist monastery, guardian of age-old wisdom and a place of refuge for those seeking inner peace. In this place where time seemed to have stopped, lived the elderly and venerated monk Makoto, whose wisdom and profound understanding of the ways of Buddhism and Oriental medicine shone like the light of a candle in the night. One morning, as the golden rays of the sun filtered through the branches of the trees, Makoto gathered his disciples in the monastery cloister for one of the usual lessons. And with a serene expression, he invited them to sit in a circle around him and began to speak in a warm and reassuring voice. Every step we take on the path of life is a sacred journey, the monk began, a path that leads us to knowledge of ourselves and the universe that surrounds us. And just as when, to face a long and tiring journey, it is necessary to prepare adequately, so also in our earthly existence, we must be ready to face the challenges that await us. The disciples listened, enraptured by their master's words, and when Makoto mentioned the ancient custom of putting salt in shoes, their minds opened to the wonder of a tradition as ancient as it was mysterious. This practice, Makoto continued, has roots that go back to the remotest past, when our ancestors walked through wild and impervious lands. In those distant times, salt was not just a condiment to enrich foods, but a precious commodity, a symbol of purity and protection. The senior monk took a moment's pause, letting the words settle like delicate sand in the minds of his disciples, and then continued, I will now explain to you the 5 main reasons why the practice of putting salt in your shoes is so significant and important for our spiritual path and for our health in general. First, Makoto said, salt has the power to absorb moisture, just as the Buddha absorbed the suffering of the world. When we put salt in our shoes, it helps us keep our steps light and agile. In Buddhist practice, humility is often associated with the heaviness of worries and suffering that we carry with us along the path of life. Just as the weight of water filling our shoes in the rain slows and weighs down our pace, so the worries and tensions of the mind can hinder our progress towards inner peace and enlightenment. Putting salt in your shoes symbolizes the desire to free yourself from this burden, to let go of worries, and to maintain a lightness of spirit despite the challenges encountered along the way. Salt acts as an absorbent of these worries, allowing our steps to remain light and agile as we proceed in our search for inner peace and wisdom. To enhance the meaning of this aspect, Makoto told them the story of an old fisherman. who during a storm had saved his boat from breaking thanks to a bag of salt that he had thrown on the deck to absorb the water. The second reason to put salt in your shoes, Makoto continued, is that salt has purifying properties. By assimilating impurities, salt purifies our path, freeing it from harmful influences and spiritual obstacles. Putting salt in our shoes, therefore, is a way to protect our mind and spirit from the deceptions and temptations of the outside world. To better explain this idea, the monk shared with his disciples the story of a traveler who, during his journey, had encountered a river infested with evil spirits. Thanks to the salt in his shoes, he was able to cross the river unscathed, protecting his mind and spirit from negative influences. The third reason, Makoto continued, is that salt helps us maintain balance. Just as the mountains that surround us are symbols of stability and strength, putting salt in our shoes also helps us to root ourselves in the earth and to remain steadfast in the face of the storms of life. The mountains surrounding the monastery represent the image of stability and strength, said the monk. Just as these towering rock formations remain steadfast even in the face of the most violent storms, so we too must learn to maintain our inner stability as we face life's challenges. And putting salt in your shoes symbolizes this balance. The salt, in fact, acts as an anchor for our steps, stabilizing them and preventing unwanted falls along our path. When we walk with salted shoes, we feel more solid and rooted to the ground, as if we have a deep connection with the earth itself. This balance not only affects the body, but also the mind and spirit. Therefore, following this practice is an invitation to find the right balance between the different dimensions of our existence. Between work and rest, between action and contemplation, between joy and sadness, between good and evil. When we manage to maintain this balance, we can face life's challenges with serenity and determination without being shocked by the ups and downs we encounter along the spiritual path. To make the concept clearer, Makoto told them the story of a young monk who, during a meditation on the banks of a stormy mountain stream, had found perfect balance thanks to the salt he brought with him. As the disciples became more and more involved with the stories of their spiritual guide, Makoto continued with the fourth reason. Salt also has healing properties, he said. In Oriental medicine, in fact, salt is considered a natural remedy to relieve pain and tension. Putting salt in your shoes can soothe not only the physical discomforts, but also the mental ones that we encounter along our spiritual path. To demonstrate this idea, the monk shared with his disciples the story of a farmer who, suffering from an open wound on his foot, had found relief by immersing his foot in a saline solution. Continuing with the fifth reason, Makoto talked about how putting salt in your shoes was a gesture of gratitude. Salt is a precious gift from the earth, and using it mindfully reminds us to be grateful for all that life offers us, both the joys and the challenges, said the master. The disciples listened to Makoto's words with deep reverence, grasping the wisdom behind that seemingly simple gesture, but the monk wasn't finished yet. Looking his disciples straight in the eyes, he added, "My dears, there is a reason linked to this practice that I wanted to leave until last due to its importance. Putting salt in your shoes is a rite of passage that connects us to past generations and all the people who have walked this earth before us. Every grain of salt represents their stories, their challenges, and their victories. When we put it in our shoes, we join an eternal bond of wisdom and resilience that crosses time and space, transmitting their spirit and strength in our footsteps." Faced with this revelation, the disciples were speechless, contemplating the depth of this apparently simple gesture. They understood that, for Makoto, salt in shoes was not just an ancient practice or a symbol of protection and purification. but a connection to humanity itself and all the lives that have passed before them. Have you ever heard of the custom of putting coarse salt in the corners of the house? And do you know what exactly this ancient Buddhist practice passed down by monks and healers of enormous wisdom and experience is for? Thanks to the exciting Zen story you are about to hear, you will discover some of the greatest benefits of salt and the powerful symbolic and spiritual implications behind it. So, stay until the end and don't miss even a minute of this precious video, because the information you will receive will help you in your search for inner peace. But before continuing, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way you will be informed when we publish new content for your spiritual growth. In a quiet Buddhist monastery hidden in the Japanese mountains, the wise old monk Hiroshi told his devoted disciples stories of profound wisdom. Dear disciples, there is an ancient practice that may appear simple, but which has deep roots in Buddhist wisdom and important symbolic and spiritual implications. The monk continued, putting coarse salt in the corners of your house may seem like a trivial gesture, but you have to watch what happens when you do it. It's like sowing the seed of change and watching how it flourishes. A young monk raised an eyebrow skeptically. I used to doubt this practice, he admitted, but now I wonder what would happen if I did it. You should know that salt has been valued throughout the centuries, considered more than just a spice. It was traded like gold, and many believed it possessed magical properties. But why put salt in the corners of the house? Asked another young nun. Because salt isn't just about making food taste better, Hiroshi replied. It has a much deeper history. And so the monk embarked on a tale that unfolded through ancient cultures and civilizations, from the ancient Egypt of the pharaohs to Gandhi's India, from the regions of Normandy to Bavaria, from Judaism to Buddhism. He explained how salt had been considered a protective amulet, a symbol of unshakable life, a means of purification and harmonization. It is more than meets the eye, Hiroshi said. It is a bridge between us and the universe, a key to our connection with nature and with ourselves. His disciples absorbed the words of the wise monk, reflecting on the depth behind such a simple gesture as putting salt in the corners of one's home. And so they began to understand that even the smallest actions can lead to significant changes when intrinsically connected to wisdom and awareness. Every practice has a beginning, he began, and the practice of using salt as a tool of purification and transformation has its roots in the past, intertwined with the stories of monks, sages, and ordinary people. The disciples approached, eager to discover the secrets Hiroshi was about to reveal. In Buddhist tradition, he continued in a calm voice, salt is considered a protective amulet, capable of repelling negative energies and purifying the space it occupies. A young nun raised her hand, eager to know more, but how did this practice begin? She asked curiously. Hiroshi smiled, accepting the question. In times past, corners were believed to be places where stagnant energies could accumulate, creating an imbalance in the home environment. And by placing salt in these points, an energetic barrier was created that repelled negative influences. The disciples' eyes shone with interest as Hiroshi continued his narration. In Japan, for example, salt is used in Shinto purification rituals to eliminate spiritual impurities and protect against evil spirits. This practice has evolved over the centuries, but its profound meaning has remained intact and, even today, many elderly people cultivate it and pass it down with confidence to their heirs. As Hiroshi spoke, the disciples found themselves transported to a world of ancient beliefs, superstitions, and traditional wisdom, and they began to understand that the simple gesture of putting salt in the corners of the house was an act of protection and harmonization with the universe. But the power of this element is not limited only to protection, continued Hiroshi, his eyes bright with wisdom. Salt also has the ability to transform stagnant energies into positivity and create an environment that fosters personal growth and emotional well-being. The disciples listened carefully, fascinated by the words of the wise monk. For them, the concept of using salt as a tool for purification and transformation was becoming increasingly clear and meaningful. "And now," said Hiroshi, as the fire crackled softly before them, "I will show you a simple yet powerful method for using salt to purify and harmonize your home environment." With an air of expectation, the disciples gathered even closer, ready to learn the Master's secrets, because they knew that even though salt might seem like a common thing, its power was profound and transformative. And Hiroshi was ready to lead them on a journey of discovery through the ancient practices involving this humble yet powerful element. "First of all," continued the elderly monk, "we must understand the role of salt in our daily lives and its connection to the energies that surround us. Salt has been precious throughout the ages," Hiroshi continued, "not only for its culinary value, but also for its physical and symbolic properties. It was considered a divine gift, a symbol of purification and protection against dark forces." As he spoke, he showcased a variety of salts collected from around the world, from raw sea salt to pink Himalayan salt crystals. Each type of salt carries with it a unique vibration, he explained. And learning to use salt correctly means being aware of this diversity and how it can affect our environment and our inner energy. The disciples contemplated the various types of salt with curiosity, aware of their potential significance beyond the simple flavor they added to meals. "But how can we fully harness the power of salt in our lives?" asked one of the monks, eager to apply what he was learning. "You asked an important question," Hiroshi replied with a smile. "The key is in intention and mindful practice. I will show you a method you can use to purify and protect your home environment." "The moon is a powerful energy catalyst," Hiroshi explained, "and when salt is exposed to its light, it becomes charged with purifying and harmonizing energy." The disciples watched in awe as the salt absorbed the silvery light of the moon, exuding an aura of tranquility and power. "This salt," said Hiroshi, "can be used to create a circle of protection around your home or to purify interior spaces." With an elegant gesture, he took a pinch of salt from the bowl and scattered it around the perimeter of the monastery courtyard, tracing an invisible circle of protection. "This circle," he explained, "will create an energetic barrier that will repel negative influences and promote peace and harmony within these boundaries." The disciples watched reverently as Hiroshi completed the circle of salt, feeling the presence of a protective energy surrounding the monastery. It was as if the place itself had been enveloped in a loving and powerful embrace. But the power of salt is not just limited to external protection, Hiroshi continued. It can also be used to purify and harmonize internal spaces, creating an environment that promotes spiritual growth and well-being. With this, he led the disciples inside the monastery, where he guided them through a series of practices involving salt to purify and harmonize the internal spaces. Each gesture was performed with awareness and intention, as the disciples learned to connect with the power of salt and use it to transform the energies around them. "Have you ever noticed how humidity can accumulate on the walls of your home, especially in certain areas?" Hiroshi asked, scanning the expressions of all the people present. Everyone nodded in agreement, recalling times when they had observed this phenomenon in their homes. "Placing salt in those spots can be extremely helpful," Hiroshi continued. "Salt, in fact, has the ability to absorb humidity from the surrounding air, thus helping to prevent the formation of mold and safeguard our health." But that's not all, he said with a smile that suggested a new revelation. Salt can also be an ally in the fight against bad odors in domestic environments. Placing small bowls of salt in strategic locations around the home, such as the kitchen or bathroom, can help absorb and neutralize bad odors, Hiroshi explained. In this way, salt acts as a natural air purifier, keeping rooms fresh and pleasant. And these two important benefits of salt, my dears, although they are not directly linked to spirituality, actually have a strong connection with our spiritual path. Because, just as it absorbs humidity and bad smells, salt also absorbs energies, emotions, and evil presences. Therefore, it has a very powerful symbolic and spiritual role, and each of us should take this into account. Have you ever heard of the ancient practice of putting your name in salt water? Imagine immersing your deepest desires in a mystical ritual, letting salt water purify them and transform them into reality. What would it be like to be able to live a life full of serenity and inner peace, free from pain and suffering? And what would it be like to find emotional balance and mental well-being by pushing away the things and people that hurt you? In this then story, thanks to Buddhist wisdom, you will discover that if you put your name in salt water, you can make your wishes come true. If you stick around to the end of this story, you will discover the incredible power of salt water for your life. And you will know how a Buddhist monk named Ariko helped a young disciple rediscover the joy of living through Zen philosophy and this ancient secret ritual. So get ready for an exciting journey through the snow-capped mountains of Japan, where ancient wisdom intertwines with the transformative power of salt water. We assure you that by the end of this touching story, you will have learned how to awaken your inner potential and turn your dreams into reality. But before continuing, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to be informed when we publish new content for your spiritual growth. In an ancient village nestled among the snow-capped mountains of Japan, there lived an old and wise Buddhist monk named Ariko. Known for his profound wisdom and compassion, he attracted disciples from every corner of the country, eager to learn from his teachings. His fame was such that even the emperor himself occasionally went to the temple to receive his advice. One day, a group of disciples gathered around the master. Their faces were marked by tiredness and discouragement. They had fought long and hard, facing all kinds of obstacles and rejections, but life didn't seem to give them what they deserved. This is why they felt tired, trapped in an endless routine, destined for an existence devoid of the well-being and peace they had always desired. Ariko looked at them with her eyes full of kindness and said, "Would you like to learn how to break down those barriers that prevent you from reaching your true potential? What would it be like to be able to overcome the waste we have to deal with every day? And what would it be like to be able to obtain what we need to live peacefully?" The disciples, faced with these questions, nodded, recognizing in Ariko's words the reflection of their own difficulties. "You are not alone," continued the elderly monk. "Many of us have faced these challenges. But there's one thing I want you to know. Every obstacle, every rejection is just part of the path to something bigger and more extraordinary. Today, I'm here to share with you something special, something that can change the course of your life in a way you don't even imagine." Ariko paused, letting her words sink into their hearts, and the disciples smiled, convinced that they would soon find out. What I'm going to tell you about is a powerful force, a philosophy of life that will not only help you achieve your goals, but will also allow you to discover a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment. It's not just a technique, Ariko clarified. It's a way of thinking, of acting, of being. It is a tool that can unleash your maximum potential and take you beyond what you ever thought possible. Are you ready to take the first step towards a fuller, more exciting and rewarding life? The disciples, intrigued and full of hope, nodded enthusiastically. "Then let us join together on this journey to personal transformation," Ariko exclaimed. A journey where every challenge becomes an opportunity and every dream becomes an achievable reality. It's time to unleash your inner greatness in all its splendor. And so, Ariko began to guide his disciples along the path of awareness and personal realization. By teaching them the principles of Zen philosophy and powerful techniques such as meditation, gratitude, and manifestation, he would give them the keys to a more fulfilling life. One day, while the disciples were meditating by the lake, Ariko told them a legend that had been handed down for generations. It is said that in the depths of this lake lives an ancient and wise dragon, guardian of a magical pearl that contains the knowledge and wisdom of the universe. Legend has it that only those with a pure heart and a determined soul can find the pearl and gain its powers. The disciples listened to the story in amazement, fascinated by the possibility of gaining such knowledge. The master smiled and said, "The legend of the dragon and the pearl is a symbol of the potential that lies within each of us. Inside us is an inexhaustible source of wisdom and strength, just waiting to be awakened, and we must learn to do it." To help his disciples connect with their inner potential, Ariko taught them a special ritual, the saltwater ritual. Salt water represents purification and transformation, Ariko explained. With this ritual, you can free your mind from negative thoughts and channel your energy towards your deepest desires. Now, listen to me carefully because I will explain exactly what you will have to do to put this powerful ritual into practice. The disciples carefully followed Ariko's instructions. Taking a blank sheet of paper, they wrote down their deepest desire clearly and precisely. Then, they folded the sheet and immersed it in a carefully prepared bowl of salted water. As the sheet absorbed the salt water, Ariko guided them in a deep meditation, helping them visualize their wish already fulfilled. He invited them to feel the positive emotions they would feel once they achieved their goal, to perceive the joy and satisfaction that would derive from it. At the end of the meditation, the disciples took the paper out of the bowl and left it to dry. Ariko assured them that the ritual had activated the power of manifestation and that their wish would come true if only they continued to believe in it with faith and perseverance. In the following days and weeks, the disciples put their mentor's teachings into practice, cultivating gratitude and faith in the power of manifestation. However, some of them began to doubt when their wishes did not come true immediately. Ariko reassured them, explaining that the path to personal fulfillment is not always linear. There will be obstacles and trials to face, but it is important to maintain faith and never abandon your dreams. Every trial is an opportunity to grow and strengthen, he said. Learn from your mistakes. Don't be afraid to fail. Failure is not the end, but just a step towards success, and it is only by failing that you can learn how to achieve your desires. The disciples, inspired by the monk's words, continued to persevere, facing challenges with courage and determination. And over time, they began to see the fruits of their efforts. Their wishes, once just distant dreams, began to come true, one after the other. As the disciples achieved their goals, they realized how powerful the potential resided within them. They had learned to turn their thoughts into reality, to overcome limitations and create the life they wanted. Gratitude became a constant feeling in their hearts. They were grateful to Ariko for his teachings, grateful for the experiences they had lived, grateful for life itself. One day, after many years of teachings, Ariko felt that the time had come to leave this world. He gathered his disciples around him and said, "My journey is coming to an end, but my teaching will live on through you. Take with you the wisdom you have learned, share it with the world, and help others find their inner light." With a smile full of peace, Ariko closed her eyes forever. His disciples, moved and saddened, promised to honor his memory by continuing to spread his message of hope, compassion, and personal fulfillment. But what does the story of the monk Ariko and saltwater teach us? That all of us, to live a full and satisfying life, must learn to awaken the potential that resides in each of us. This story is a message of hope that reminds us that we can create the life we desire if only we have the courage to believe and persevere. Like Ariko's disciples, we can learn to transform our thoughts into reality to overcome limitations and realize our greatest dreams. All through gratitude, faith in the power of manifestation, commitment, and perseverance.